Oh, glad to see everyone here tonight. We're welcoming everyone. We'll give it a minute so that people can start to log on. As always, I'm Christina of Love Shouldn't Hurt. Tonight we have some very special guests. I try my best every time we're on here to make sure that we're utilizing everyone in our community that we can have out there who can help people who are just looking to get more information, more resources within our community. I know that a lot of times people say, I never know that there's resources. So what I constantly try to do is make sure that we constantly bring on folks who can give us plenty of resources. Want to recap where we were the last time we were here. We spoke about different things like just Zuma's personal journey and how she decided to become a part of Love Shouldn't Hurt. My personal journey, what I went through during my time during domestic abuse. We spoke to folks within the community who chimed in during our chat, who spoke about different resources. We spoke to Jeanette Diaz, who actually popped up on the screen and gave us different people that we can reach out to, just like Menergy, which is actually a group and an organization within Philadelphia who can help those men out there who do say that they want to get the help and the services that they need so that they can stop the abuse. We learned about domestic violence hotline in Philadelphia, besides the national hotline, just because we want to make sure that people in Philadelphia know who they can call, but we also want to make sure that we utilize all the services that we can, even around the world and in the nation. So there's always the National Domestic Violence Hotline that you can always call at 1-800-799-7233. And I am going to be joined by two very beautiful young ladies who are from Congreso de Latinos. And I have to look at the paper because I want to make sure that I give them the props for who they are. The two women are from Congreso de Latinos, Latina Domestic Violence Program. We have Kira Belelio. I hope that's right. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. She is the director. And we have Ramona Peralta, who is the manager of the program. So I'm going to bring these two ladies on because, as per always, we want to give you the best information we can. So let me bring those ladies onto the screen. Hello, mujeres.
Hi, buenas.
Hi, buenas noches. So today was a long day for me. Estoy cansada. Me levanté sintiéndome cansada and just tired all day long. So, estamos aquí esta noche para preparar a todo el mundo for some good information. Don't mind me, I speak Spanglish. I'll go from English to Spanish because nosotros no sabemos quién lo está hablando. So we got to go back and forth. So how are you ladies tonight?
Excited to be here. I'm really excited to be here and to share such great information to the community.
Yeah.
Good.
Also here and energized. It happens to be a really great day where today we dropped off a bunch of resources. So it's kind of like a perfect ending.
That's awesome. It's like closing out your day.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with Congreso because I used to work with Congreso many eons ago. I won't say how old I am. When I first came out of college, I worked at Congreso and we did a lot of work within the community. But I was in the Boys Center at the time. Then I moved over to the REAP program where we worked with more youth. But I always heard about the different, floors in Congreso. I only knew my floor, Children and Youth Services. Never knew about any other floor or any other program. So that's really important for me today to make sure that people know what services you provide, how you help the community. Domestic violence is very, very important to me. Something that has been my personal mission to make sure that we get out there and people are more aware of what's going on within society, especially right now during this time of COVID, where unfortunately, with people having to be locked in a lot more prior, not so much now, but just being in their homes and people quarantining, it's been something that's been really difficult, especially for people who are living with the abusers. So what I want to do is kind of just get your, thoughts on COVID right now and what's going on with your opinions with domestic violence and COVID, how they coincide, and what are you feeling about that right now? And, whoever wants to jump in first, remember that I told you guys when we spoke, I'm very laid back. There is no script, no form. I love to just be laid back and just have a conversation because I want the viewers to know that we're normal people. So whichever one of you ladies wants to go first.
So we, across the nation, I think a lot of the programs are sharing data around, being stuck in isolation and how lethal it can be. And I think that's what you get when you reach out to a DV program, is folks that are experts around, because people can't think that you can safety plan in isolation or if you're stuck with someone in their house, but you can, right? There's safer rooms and other rooms, and there's techniques to be able to de-escalate situations to at least keep you safe in that moment. And that's what we're really hoping to share. I think for COVID, for us, especially in Philly, we know that there's other barriers that just make it harder. We know in our community, resources are scarce. We know that folks have to make tough decisions about safety and what they need to do to provide for their families. And on top of that, having relationship violence and having children in the home a lot more impacts how they reach out. So we are one of the 4 agencies that answers the 24-hour hotline, which you talked about last time. And one of the trends that we're noticing is that there's folks that are reaching out a lot more often in little bursts, right? That ability to have those long conversations, it's difficult. So we adjust. And that's kind of what we've had to do and learn all through all of this, is adjusting here and there so that folks feel safe in reaching out. And we prep folks when they call the hotline and saying, you may be talking to someone different each time, but you're talking to someone who understands, someone who's not going to judge you, someone who's going to be able to safety plan. And I think those are the bigger things. Of course, we're seeing folks that are, experiencing housing crisis. I think folks don't realize the impact of economic abuse, and having that economic abuse go on, especially right now. It can be life or death, right? If you don't have access to food and if you don't have access to all of those emergency resources, that's where we're here to amplify, and we're here to just let folks know, hey, if you need them, we're here.
Right. Definitely. Ramona, what have you thought? Even if it's just a personal opinion and not even just what you've kind of dealt with, but just a personal opinion or anyone you've come into contact with during this time. No specifics, clearly, but just what you guys have dealt with right now during this time.
I think I'm really glad to be working for Congreso, knowing that we have advocates that have been doing this work for so many years and that they have a passion to serving the community. And during this time, our advocates are there more than ever before. They're providing services from their home. They're trying to be there for the clients. There are existing clients, and they share, like Hira mentioned, the lack of resources that our clients are facing right now. Not only lack of resources, but also not being able to leave the house or contact the hotline because they're there with their abusive partner. So safety planning with them is key, and that's what our advocates are there for, and advocating to ensure that if they need support calling law enforcement or they just had some barriers contacting the right individual, that we're there for them, that we are there to provide them with the up-to-date information about how to obtain a protection from abuse order or where to get, who to contact that has the latest information about PFA.
Great. So something that I've found during this time, from when I began this journey till now, is that a lot of folks do not understand why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. I am on a different retrospect than the both of you. And I don't know, some of you could have experienced it, but my personal journey has been living through domestic violence and, having a daily basis, waking up to this is my world type of thing. So that has been my passion. That has been my drawing to work in this field and kind of just helping women, because I know, as I stated, on the phone and how I've stated a lot of times when I've been on these lives, people definitely do not understand the impact of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that, it could happen 10 years from now. It could happen 20 years from now, but it's a lasting effect. And that's what it's done for myself. It was a lasting effect that continued to stay, and a battle that I still definitely continue. I would no longer call myself a victim. I do believe that I am a survivor, but I do still live with that in my background. It does affect me in ways where looking at myself in the mirror and not 100% finding the beauty that I should or gaining the self-respect that I should. I fought through that and I battled it years after that happened. So that's my driving force. That's my why I do what I do. So why is it that you two chose to work in this field? Why is that something that the both of you have said, you know what, this is what I want to do? And, you come to work because they say you can have a job and they can pay you millions of dollars and you can wake up and be miserable every day. But you can have a job that can pay you $20,000 a year and be totally okay with that. So what is your driving force? What wakes you up in the morning to say, I want to deal with domestic violence every day? Ramona, you can go first.
Sure. I think that as I was sharing with Kira before the call, I started working in the domestic violence field because I applied for a position as a receptionist in one of the local domestic violence programs, and I ended up being the person who speaks with everyone who calls to seek services. So I fell in love with the work. I feel that it is a passion of mine to work in the domestic violence field, to hear that after one contact with someone over the phone, I can say something that can change someone's life. I think that is valuable for me. And that's why that's what keeps me motivated to do the work every day, to help me support my advocates, our advocates doing this wonderful job. And also working in an organization that believes in us and believes in the community, and an organization which mission is to enable individuals and families in predominantly Latino neighborhoods to achieve self-sufficiency, economic self-sufficiency and well-being. I think that that speaks to what we do, and we have been doing it for so many years. For over 25 years, Congreso has offered domestic violence services to the community, and I wanted to work for an organization that had my community in mind.
Amazing. How about yourself, Kira?
So for me, my journey really began during law school. I'm trained as an attorney. I don't practice, but volunteering for a DV program gave me purpose. I had, personally was struggling with going through law school because I went straight from undergrad with the guidance of everybody that I love, wanting me to succeed and kind of be all of those things that a lot of immigrant families are here for, to have successful careers. But for me, being able to support survivors during their legal process gave me purpose to be able to do it. And then, once I finally came through law school, I worked for a little bit as a mediator, but found myself coming back to DV work. I also think that, one of the things that we do is we offer training and certification for DV advocates. And in every single training that we have, everybody is touched across socioeconomic, across race, across everything. Someone, whether it's in your family, in your group of circle. The more that you learn about the different kinds of abuses, the more you recognize, hey, this is generational, this is cultural, this is community,
Definitely.
this is just so many aspects to it. And I think the piece that's been neat, that's been added on recently, is that knowledge about trauma, and that recognition of, maybe it wasn't directly me, but this trauma lives on, and this trauma can be passed down. And that's what we try to share with folks about. It doesn't have to be, right? We can own our traumas, we can learn from them, we can recover from them, we can become better from them. And that's what we hope to do, is offer that space for someone to come and say, I don't feel crazy anymore. I don't feel like I'm alone. I don't feel like, every time I'm triggered, like, I know it's just me. I know it's not other folks, but nobody else understands me. And that's the space that we hope to offer and have folks connect with.
Awesome. I'm loving it. So for people who are just joining in and just logging on, today we have two fabulous women from Congreso's Latina Domestic Violence Program. They're giving you all of the information for what Congreso has to offer for our community, for not only just Latinos. I'm sure if someone from any walk of life comes in, whether you're Latino or not, Congreso has the services, and they're here today to share that information with us. So again, thank you, ladies, for being here. We appreciate it. So let's speak on that. So the program is for Latina domestic violence, people looking for help within the Latino community. But if other people come in as well, they can come in. So when we say Latina, and I just say this for the people that are watching, that, may say, how can they help me? Algunos serán tan, velando, and they're like, ellos hablan español, solamente yo no hablo inglés. So when they walk in, hay gente bilingüe, hay gente que lo pueden ayudar, que hablan inglés y español, los dos idiomas.
Yes, sí.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you find that within the community that you're in, it's more Latino that just walk in, or do you see a lot of different, races come in to get help?
We actually have the majority, we see about 40% Latinos. And I would say the other majority would be Black or African American folks. The majority of the folks that come to us, although we can see anybody walking through the door, of course, folks from North Philly tend to come in a little bit more often, or from where, the Latino community is, which right now happens to be South Philly or the Northeast. So we for a long time, we were the only culturally specific program in the state. So, we also were able to connect with folks in Montgomery and Delaware County. If they needed support, they would reach out to us, or other programs would connect us to us because they knew that we were fully bilingual staffed, fully bicultural staff, and really took into account the needs of survivors that were from Latino backgrounds, even though we can serve anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do you see a lot of success stories?
We do. So, but success looks a little bit different. So
Every different
for someone,
Right.
for someone who looks in from the outside, they might see success as someone who left their abusive partner.
Right.
For us, it's someone achieving whatever goal they want for them, to make that decision in an informed and educated manner, to be able to have a safety plan in place, to be able to even provide in that 2 seconds just something that's going to increase their ability to make better decisions for themselves and their family, and to be able to get past that stage of contemplation into action. We recognize that not everybody who reaches out is in a space that they're ready to act. Maybe they just want to talk, they want to vent, they just want to process. That's what we're here for, is to get them empowered. They should be the ones driving the bus. That is the biggest thing that we try to train and educate the community on, is do not push survivors to do what they're not ready. They are experts in their situation. They've been surviving this whole time. What we're here to do is create options, create opportunity, make sure that they know that they can make decisions regardless of what it looks like and how to make them safest.
Mm-hmm. Can I also add that dangerous is the most leaving is the most dangerous time for someone who is going through domestic violence. So it is important for them to seek support from someone who is, like Tita said, who's going to validate, who's going to listen, who is not going to persuade them to make a decision that they're not ready to make.
Right. So, which is an important segue into the next question. When I was in my situation, plenty of times, we'll talk about today. Today, I had a conversation with my daughter's godfather. God bless him. And that was kind of sort of the genre of the topic, how he thought, at that time, not now, but at that time, he thought maybe, I should have left. I was smarter than that, which is important for people to know, during that time is the most difficult time. You can say that you're going to leave 20 times before you actually really step outside of that door. There's so many barriers that kind of stop you from leaving, whether it's fear, whether it's, like you said, economic status. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? He holds all my money. Children, sometimes we don't want to leave because we're like, where are we going to go? I have children. What am I going to do? Where am I going to be? So what services specifically do you guys provide? If someone comes to you today and they say, I'm dealing with an abuser, I need to get out, I don't know where to go, I have $100 in my bank account, I'm scared. How would that process, how would you help them? What services could you provide?
Sure. And I think services now during COVID are very different than our services in the agency, because
that was a question too that I was going to ask. How is it different now?
So right now we are assessing. So we have a line that I believe that you have it there. And I see it at the bottom of the screen. That's the phone number, our main number to reach out to an advocate. We have an intake team right now providing that immediate support over the phone, where we assess the situations. We do a lethality assessment over the phone, and then we refer, if the case is an emergency and the person needs to relocate due to their safety, we ensure that the right advocate that is working directly with housing and adult counseling, they get involved, and we do advocacy. The whole team gathers together to ensure that at the end of the day, that person is going to be safe, that they receive the services that they need. For ongoing services, it's the same process. They will be assessed by our intake team. and they will be then connected with our adult advocates, and the adult advocates will provide that ongoing empowerment counseling that can help them to achieve their success in whichever way that success looks like for that individual.
Right.
It's also important to note that all of our services are free, voluntary, and confidential. A lot of folks find themselves in different systems that are telling them it's mandatory, you need DV, you need DV, you need DV. You come to us and we let you know, hey, you have rights, right? You can ask certain questions. We are involved as much as you'd let us be involved in your process. And, these are the kind of some of the outcomes that we have seen. So I think a lot of the times that's what we're helping to support folks is navigate. And that's what we mean by advocacy, right? Our job isn't to tell systems what our job is not for me to tell a survivor how to navigate a system. My job is to tell that system this is what a survivor is experiencing. And this is what advocacy means at different levels, right? With a direct advocate, they're there to support and to plan individually on that best case basis. When you get to Ramona, myself, Jeanette's level, right, we're talking to bigger systems and we're saying, hey, this isn't working for survivors, and a lot of what we do is we work with those bigger systems to say, maybe it's not a good idea to make certain forms mandatory for survivors because when they leave, they don't have access to a lot of documents, right? So even when we're working with housing, because that's one of the services that we offer support specifically for domestic violence survivors to receive either kind of a one-time emergency relocation or ongoing supports. And we're working with them knowing that they've been impacted and they've suffered some kind of harm because of that economic abuse. So they may not have pay stubs 3 years back, right? So we're coaching them and figuring out, hey, they may have never paid a bill, or receiving all of these bills can be really triggering, right? We work with them to figure it out. Okay, how do we make this more manageable? What kind of supports do you need to be in place? And there's processes for all of that, because as soon as folks say housing, those are all the resources that an advocate's going to connect you with. But your advocate is someone that's in your corner the whole time and for as long as you need them. We're one of the programs that we don't close a case. We're pretty much with someone as long as they need us to be with them.
Question.
Yeah, we do have a curriculum, so we do have like sessions and topics and things that we talk about. But we've had clients with us that have been with us for a really long time, and it's been beautiful actually to see them participate in like support groups. We have a support group for survivors that have been outside of their situation for a longer period of time, but they're at a stage right now where it's all about empowerment. They just want the ability to educate in their community. They want to learn about this. They want to help their kids. They want to help other folks not make the same mistakes. We've even had someone, start another support group on, within their own community. So those are the kinds of things that are really beautiful to see. One of our other bigger services is support for kids who've witnessed DV.
That's important.
A parent, it can be really hard to make that decision to get help for yourself. But when you see your kid being impacted, that's something that whether you're the partner who's being abused or the partner who's acting abusively, sometimes that's the one thing that can bring you together and say, hey, our kids need support. So, we work with kids as young as 4, as long as they're verbal, all the way up to 18. We have support groups for kids as well. Right now, it looks a little bit different during COVID. So we're working a little bit with the younger folks. We're working with parents a little bit more directly. But, one of the things that I was able to do this afternoon was drop off session boxes. So we are able to give folks materials to say, okay, we're going to have a session with a kid, and we use a lot of techniques that play therapy uses. So we drop off, coloring, supplies, everything that they need. And we're able to say, okay, now we're going to have a session. Tell me what your, what home looks like. Tell me what safety looks like. Who's a safe person? How do you feel when you do this? How do you call 911? How do you call a safe person? A lot of the emotional safety planning.
That's awesome. I think that's super important, especially in our community, because I think that, especially the Latinos, ¿verdad? I say it all the time. A lot of Latinos and minorities, our motto has always been embedded in our brains: lo que pasa en la casa, se queda en la casa. And I think people think that that's redundant because I get on here and I say that all the time. But I think that that's something that's been embedded in our brain for so long, and people don't go out there because they feel like, no, I got to keep this at home, nadie puede saber lo que está pasando. But I think it's important, and again, my mission and my reason why I've done this is because of that. Because for so long I stood quiet. I didn't let anybody know what was going on. And I think back now, and I think during that time when it was going on, my daughter wasn't aware because most of the major abuse was prior to her birth. After her birth, she was an infant. She had no idea what was going on. But the repercussions of what they feel as they get older. She's older now. She knows a lot. She sat with us when we did the documentary. And I can't even imagine what her life would look like now had she really understood during that time and she really was a witness to that. Because now, as a 13-year-old, it is difficult for her to digest what happened to mommy. She saw the documentary, she heard what happened, and now she has a lot of anger. She has a lot of questions. She has a very big guard up when it comes to relationships and men. Not that she's ready for either one, but when we talk about relationships in her future and what she'll tolerate and what she won't tolerate, in one retrospect, I'm pretty proud. And I'm hoping that her mindset stays the same. I know that some of us sometimes, el amor que tiene a little bit blind sometimes. Hopefully when she gets older, that never happens. But I think it's super important. And it's exciting to know that it starts as early as 4. So if you're watching and you didn't hear that part, they have services for children who have witnessed domestic violence, and it starts at 4. That's awesome. I think that kids sometimes can't even verbalize what it is that they feel. They just know that they're angry. They go to school and they're upset. I'll say this much. My daughter only remembers the last time I was hit, and that was because she was 3. And it made her upset just thinking about it. Whenever we talk about it, she gets upset because she's like, I can't believe, I witnessed that. But she was able to move on in life, be normal, be who she is, and not let it affect her. When she turned about 7, unfortunately, she witnessed another act of violence through my abuser with his new partner. And I wasn't aware of that until about a week later. After I brought her home, the week had passed, she went to school. She divulged the information, I saw this happen, Mom. I was so angry, so upset. And then the week later, the school counselor called me and said, there's a change in Alina. I don't know what happened, but she's not the same person. Her attitude is different. She's a lot more defiant. She's talking back. We don't know what it is. Did something happen? And it was like, wow, they noticed? Like, it's that much of a change in her. And from that day on, I would honestly say from about 7 to 10, my child was a different person. She no longer saw the abuse through me, but she was witness to someone else being abused still with that same person. And because that person is close to her, it did affect her. I had moments where I had to call my older sister and say, get your niece, I'm going to hurt her, because her attitude was so different. She was so defiant. She was angry all the time. And I was constantly like, Alina, what is wrong? And I never understood. And as time went on, she got a little bit older. She was able to be more open and speak to me about what is making her so angry. Our relationship got better. My daughter's 13 now, and we have the most amazing relationship. I mean, my girl tells me everything. Some things I don't want to know. But her and I are like freaking frat. We do everything together. If she's gone, she wants to hurry up and come back home to be with me. We're super, super close. But I'll say this, just living with it every day. And I don't know if you caught that. I don't know if any of you have seen the documentary, but people know in general, my day job, I'm a counselor. And I've always been in social services. I was a school social worker, and now I'm a counselor throughout the day. So I deal with it on a daily basis. And I didn't even know how to deal with it with my own daughter. So to know that there are services at as young as 4 years old is phenomenal. So again, if you're watching, note down that this is Congreso. Note that those services are there and they provide it, because I think that the lasting effect, especially on children, is just difficult. Doris Acevedo, I don't know if you know her, but she works at Congreso too. Yeah. Fun fact, we went to school together for a very long time. She went and she saw the documentary. Thank you for that support. She went, she was there. We did go to school together. We went to Chestnut Hill together too. It's just something that it's crazy, you know, during that time, being in the social service field, living through it and having to put on that face, you know, cada día me levanté, me bañé, me puse linda, the way that I am, loud, funny, goofy, pero en la casa todos los días llorando, sufriendo, mirándome en el espejo and hating who I was. You know, and it's difficult because people don't understand that. People don't realize that, you know, when you live through domestic violence, you have to put on that face. And you guys deal with it on a daily basis. You know, you deal with people who come in and out. So your time now during this time of COVID, I would say from like February to now, have you seen your numbers go up or your numbers go down?
So we keep different kind of numbers in track. For the hotline, for sure, you know, the connection number, it dipped for a little bit, but right now it's a little bit more steady. We did see a lot more calls, you know, hang-ups, dropped calls, things like that. As far as ongoing services, so what we're seeing is, you know, the clients that were really steady before, that maybe reached out once in the blue moon, are reaching out more often. You know, this is just a really triggering time for a lot of folks, whether, you know, whatever decision they've made, folks are processing a lot of stress. So they're reaching out in that sense. We are, you know, we receive referrals through community. We receive referrals through different agencies. We're definitely seeing a lot of referrals through DHS. We know that even though there's a lot less child abuse reports being made, the ones that are being made are pretty rough. So we're trying to connect with families to make sure that they're safe and that they're making the best decisions that they can make at this moment. But one of the things that, you know, we're hoping to come out of this is, you know, for a long time, we were like the best kept secret, right? Even folks, like you mentioned, right? You worked at Congreso and you didn't necessarily know, you went to a floor that you couldn't really go to. Right. And we got a lot of our clients by word of mouth. Folks just knew, hey, there's a safe place to be upstairs. But now during COVID, it's different. We need to be out there. We need folks to see us, and for folks to know that they're not alone. Whether you're a male, a female, whatever you identify with, you can reach out to really any one of the DV agencies. But Congreso is here to support. We're still in the community. We're still trying to, you know, offer services in the way that's true to someone who lives in Philly and needs those resources directly.
Can I also share, going back to what you were saying about your experience with your daughter? I think that one of the things that I love about the services that we offer for youth is that we partner up with the parent and we offer those conversations. So we open up and ensure that the parent understands what the child is going through and how to navigate that conversation with the child, because the one cannot heal without the other. They have to go hand in hand, healing together. And right now that we're home with our children, that we're dealing with domestic violence, that it has potentially increased because of COVID, this is a great time to reach out to our agency, to talk to our advocates that are experts in this topic. So I just wanted to share that it is so important. And if folks call us, that we want them to leave a message, we want to make sure that it is okay to call them back if they call our main line and they call 1300. That they need to leave a message so that our advocates can reach out to them whenever it's safer to them. We don't want to create any difficulty for them in their home or put them at higher risk if we call during wrong times.
Right. So I heard one of you, I don't know which one of you said it. You said at the end, services to people in Philadelphia. So si alguien viene de Puerto Rico y está huyendo de una situación que es malo, y tienen miedo y vienen acá a quedar con una familiar y dicen, yo necesito ayuda. Yo no estoy viviendo en Puerto Rico, él todavía está allá, yo estoy acá, estoy con mi familia, pero yo necesito ayuda porque si yo quiero ir para atrás, yo tengo miedo que él me va a hacer algo. So, si la gente viene acá, son en Filadelfia, pero son de Puerto Rico, será que van a regresar para atrás, pero necesitan la ayuda. ¿Ustedes también lo ayudan?
Yes, absolutely. Vamos a estar ahí para poder hacer ese plan de seguridad, que es lo más importante, porque nosotros vemos que cuando personas se van de una situación peligrosa sin ese plan, es más probable que van a regresar. Y eso es lo que queremos evitar, que una persona regrese a una situación que ahora va a ser hasta más peligroso.
Good. So do you get people, you know, que vienen de afuera who actually come and say, I need the help, yeah?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, for a long time, we were the state's only, culturally specific program. So we've worked with sister agencies from other counties when, they need support getting folks. We recently worked with someone, they're in a rural county, but they're working with someone who is Brazilian, who, was brought over, and we were supporting them on how do we make sure that this person safely makes it back home and is able to relocate in a way that works for them. So while our services are based out of Philly, I think anybody who reaches out, we're able to connect with you, and we're able to connect with your local program too, because as much as support as we're able to offer, there are certain tangibles that have to come from specific counties, such as like the housing supports. We really try to reconnect to those counties because they're going to know your area better, right? I can't help look for housing out in, Chester County. I just know the area. And I don't know their systems. I don't know their resources. So those are the things that we're always going to let the survivor know, because either way, they're going to make the best decision for themselves. They might have a family member that's working in a DV program in that county. So we've had those situations happen too. So we'll just be able to support in that way.
So you find that you get a lot of support. I'm not sure who your partners are in Philadelphia, but do you find that you get a lot of support from your local police districts? And is there a specific district that's more helpful, that you can call if you need them? Council people, do you feel like you get support from the city, for people who are out there?
So each system has a champion, right? That's, I think, something that as a collaborative, the 4 domestic violence agencies in Philadelphia, which is Congreso de Latinos Unidos, Lutheran Settlement House, Women in Transition, and Women Against Abuse, we've fought really hard to try and make sure that there are champions in each system. So while there may be moments where the system just sucks, we also know that there are champions inside of it that are trying to make it better. So in the police districts, right, each police district has a victim assistance officer. And we all try to connect with them and make sure that they have training and that they have hotline cards and that they have stuff that, that they're able to distribute when they're seeing folks. But we also know, we get stories of things that don't go right. And those are situations where Ramona, myself, Jeanette meet often with folks. With the police enforcement, we meet about on a monthly basis, and we say, hey, we're experiencing this, right? This is what's going on. I just want to let you know, how can we plan around it? How do we gather stats? How do we make it better? I would say with each system, it looks different. Some systems are slower, some systems are faster. But what's important for us is to know and to amplify. That's what our job is. And I think, it's great that they welcome us into the space a lot of the times. Some are more welcoming than other, always. But I think that's system advocacy. That's what we're here to do.
I think that was actually following up to my next question. A lot of the times, and I think one of you, I'm not sure if it was Kira or Ramona, but one of you, I was actually welcomed through Janet, Jeanette. I was able to be a part of the roundtable discussion last year. I don't remember which one of you was there. One of you was there. But that was the question that was posed to me. He was giving the governor was giving everyone, a different question. And the question he asked me was, what could police do better? What could law enforcement do better? So my question for you guys is, if I'm going to give you a scenario. It's a scenario that I dealt with recently with one of my phone calls. If someone who is going through domestic violence comes to you and says, I went to the 25th district, I went to 24th district, and they turned me away because I didn't have bruises on my face. They told me, so I give up. I'm not going to do it. Will your advocates go back with them? Like, is there any processes for that? And I say that because I recently had a situation who someone called me and they let me know, I gave them different steps. This is what you're going to do for protection order. This is what you're going to do if you go to write a report at the police. And they were very discouraged because they say that when they went to the police district, the person who took their information was not helpful. No specific district out there, just saying, where the person went, they weren't specifically helpful. They told them they didn't see any bruises on their person, unless that person hits you, you can't come. Something like that. So will one of your advocates help them, if they just want to give up and they don't want to go back? Like, is there more that you do? Because that person just wanted to stop. And clearly I was like, no, we're going to move forward. We're going to do what we have to do. Have you found that? Have you had people who were discouraged? Like, I tried to get other help secondhand and this is what happened?
Absolutely. And I think this is the space where part of what we do is we are experts in victim rights. Congreso, we're lucky enough that not only are we a DV program, but we are a victim service program. So we're a dual program, and we part of our job is educating folks on what their rights are. We don't have to have a police report to file for a PFA, right? You don't have to, if you had a negative experience with this police officer, we have sat with clients and have them find different avenues of getting that police report.
Okay.
We try to navigate that in a way that's safe. We do try to let them know, hey, these are the pros and cons of what it means for me to be part of this process. Because one of the things that we want to make sure that we uphold at all times is confidentiality. So DV advocates through the PFA Act in Pennsylvania have absolute privilege, which means not even a judge can ask us what you talk to us about. And it's frustrating for folks that reach out and say, hey, I just want to find out if they're safe or if they want, if they got where they wanted. And we have to just say, I can't confirm or deny. The law protects us. And we want to make sure that anybody reaching out to us knows that because people who act abusively come from all walks, including positions of power. So we want to make sure that we're protecting our survivors and that they know that they're protecting their privacy and their safety as much as possible.
Awesome. So I had a police officer who's actually a friend of mine, love him. He actually reached out to me and he spoke of trying to get some coaching going on for their dispatchers. So that they're more vested in what to say to people when they call, if it's a domestic violence situation. You guys say that you coach. What type of coaching do you do? Like besides with the people that you're working with, but do you coach like different places like that, like the police district or different places, and even things of that nature, like dispatchers? Like, I think they're trained in what it is that they do, which is amazing. I'm sure it is not an easy job to have all these people calling in with killings and different things going on. He interestingly sent me, I'm not sure if any of you have seen it. He sent me a TikTok video that went around, and there's a girl who's actually calling the police district and she's asking for a pizza. And the police officer. So he spoke to me about that. So is that something like, are you guys doing those types of coaching, or is that something that's in the works? Or
we do community education all the time. It looks a little bit different now. We've been doing it a lot for parenting classes, but we have gone and done DV 101s or just different kinds of screening techniques. For a long time, we did medical advocacy. Right now, Lutheran Settlement House is doing an amazing job at it, where they go into healthcare systems and make sure that doctors are screening. Congreso's Healthcare Center, we work with them closely to make sure that we're screening. Every time that we're asking these questions, we know that we need to ask it frequently. We know that we need to ask it quickly. So we've worked in systems that have very short periods of moments with someone, but they need to get that question across. So if a district were to be interested and say, hey, I just want a quick training or I want ongoing support, we're able to offer that as well. Community education is one of our services as well.
So you see me looking down. Like I said, I'm not as we must say this, we must say that type of program. I want to make sure that every time we come on, we're utilizing the resources that are on the screen. But I always jot down. I always have in front of me, and I always show it all the time. I always have a to-do list of things that I want to make sure that I say, questions I want to say, but I also write down myself all the services you provide. So if you see me looking down, I'm not ignoring you.
No.
Something that you said sparked something in my head, and I was like, let me write it down.
And every time we interact with new systems, we break down some of those myths, right? We break down the myth that men can't be victims. I think that's something that we've definitely seen an uptrend, not necessarily them experiencing it, but them reaching out for help. We're lucky enough to be one of the programs that has a staff attorney. We have an attorney on site who provides support for Yeah. We have an attorney who practices family law, specific for survivors of DV, and that also has some immigration kind of supports that they need. And because of that service, we know that we've seen an uptick on, folks that identify as men reaching out for help because it's a tangible, it's really something that, you can't avoid. If you need an attorney, that's an expensive thing that not a lot of folks help support with.
And an attorney that is trauma informed, that understands the
Bilingual.
domestic violence, and bilingual.
Yeah.
So, ustedes son Latina, right? So, usando el A, right? People think just women. So, you're saying también, porque ya yo lo veo también. Cuando yo empecé, yo tenía como 100 emails que eran de hombre. Y me sorprendió. I was like, wowzers. So, también ustedes reciben llamadas de hombre también.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I think that that's something that la gente no aprovecha because they're sienten vergüenza. I'm a man. Nobody should be abusing me and things of that nature. So I love that I'm hearing that because I've seen in the community that it's kind of very taboo for a man to say he's being abused because, for men, it's supposed to be their macho. This could never happen to me, but men are being abused. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
So if you guys are tuning in again, I want to remind everyone that we are talking to two amazing women from Congreso de Latinos who help with the Latina Domestic Violence Program. They're giving us all of the information that is really important tonight for anyone in Philadelphia or anywhere else if you want to come to Philly, for all of you to hear their services and how they can help you. I try my best every week to make sure that we have people on the screen who just can help you and provide services. And thankfully, Congreso accepted the offer to come on and join us today. We're going to take another question. I see a question came up. I'm going to pull it up so you guys can answer it. We have about 10 minutes left. I want to make sure that before we get off, you guys give the best information you think possible, your contact info, how people can reach you, and all of the above so that people can, know where to go to when they contact Congreso. So let's pull this question up. Jessica says, if someone is still living with an abuser but secretly getting help, are there code words they can use on the phone that will translate to needing your help ASAP? Great question, Jess. Thank you.
So if you were to call the hotline at this moment, one of the questions that they're going to ask you is, are you in a safe space right now? So it's their job to ask, are you in a space to be able to ask to speak freely? Depending on that answer, I've seen it as much as hotline advocates, go through the alphabet just to try to get someone's address because you need us to help call for the police. So it's really going to depend on kind of what that looks like, but it shouldn't be on someone calling necessarily to have that anxiety and have that stop them from reaching out. It shouldn't stop them from reaching out. But it may take a little bit of creativity. And I think that's what, the advocates are experts at. It's being creative on how do we communicate in a way that we can, especially right now. Unfortunately, in Philly, we don't have a text line. We redirect to the national line and they offer great supports as well. But that's something that we're trying to work on, right? We're trying to get a text line going because we know that's how most people communicate right now anyway. But I've had folks reach out to me through email. I had one client use their kids' game system to reach out to me and use that internet. I think right now kids going to school virtually allows them to have access to internet in ways that they haven't before. So if you do email the Congreso info line, know that it does get redirected to one of us so that we're able to reach out. And, one of the things that we always just try to make sure and ask is, is it safe to call back? Is it safe to call back? Because we want to call back so much, but we also do not want to put someone in danger.
Yes. So I put up the line for the national domestic violence call. I say it every time that we're on, but I want it up there constant, not moving, so people know, because that's something that I think is super important for people to know as well. People say, I can get the help. I want to call, but now I'm afraid he's home. What do I do when he's home? And just like that TikTok, the person calls and says she needs a pizza. If for any reason, if you are watching and you are going through some sort of abuse and you feel like, I don't know how I'm going to reach out because he is sitting next to me or sitting across from me, know that on the National Domestic Violence Hotline line, You can also chat. You don't have to verbally speak to a person. You can chat with that person so that you can get the help as well. So please make sure that you note the number down. I repeat every time, I'm on 1-800-799-7233. That is the national hotline. The line directly for these amazing women and their program is going across the screen at Congreso's main line, 215-763-8870. Their extension is 1353. Please, please, please utilize them if you must. So ladies, with about 5 minutes left, if there's something that you would love to say to my viewers today, what is one important thing that you want them to take away from tonight's discussion? We've heard from you a lot.
Yeah.
Ramona,
Yes.
habla un poquito.
One thing that I want to say is that not to be silent. This is an issue that is serious. It's an issue that it could be lethal in some cases, and reaching out for help is very, very important. If you're going through domestic violence, if you feel you have an inclination that you might be in an unsafe situation, in an unsafe household, please speak up. Call the national hotline. Reach out for help. When you go to the supermarket, when you're going to a doctor's appointment, talk to the doctor about it. We have a health center. Go to the health center, Congreso's health center, to ask for help. One of our advocates will always be available to answer any calls we get from the health center. But the important thing is to ask for help. Just reach out, talk to someone who you think is going to listen to you and is going to guide you to the right direction.
Yep. And for me, te creemos, te escuchamos. We're here without judgment, without any kind of bias. We understand what it means to be going through this. No one's ever going to push you to make a decision that you're not ready to do. You are the expert in this situation, and you've been surviving this situation for much longer. You'll survive through this.
That is awesome. I love it. I love it. Like I said on my last show, I was on the other day on Bomba Live, because you'll see me there too on Thursdays. Mujeres poderosas. That's what I call women like you, luchadores, who are in there every day luchando para otras mujeres que están sufriendo por esto. I did not have that during my time, I think, because I spent so much time just feeling like, there's nobody out there. So para ver que nosotros tenemos gente en la ciudad, en la comunidad de nosotros, gente que son como nosotros. Cuando ellos entran, puede ver gente que son de nuestro color y pueden tener la ayuda que necesitan. Lo aprecio, lo agradezco. I think you guys are amazing for doing what you do. I'm always just thrilled when I see people working in this work. I have always heard of it and known of it. And, then I was like, I'm not sure, because I was always so scared. I was always, in the darkness. But now that I'm in the limelight, I love it. I love it. I love it to just see women like you guys. So again, mujeres poderosas, luchadores. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here tonight. It was awesome speaking to you.
Thank you.
Again, these are the women for Congreso's Latina Domestic Violence Program. If you need the help, the number's at the bottom of the screen. Make sure that you guys call them if you need the help. They are there. Look, Jeanette is giving you guys some love. And everybody who's been watching has continued to give you guys some love. It's been an amazing night. I hope that everyone has watched, has received some really important information. I know that I jotted down about 4 or 5 things that I am taking away from tonight. So that is always the goal, to take away information so that women always feel like there's help out there. So thank you guys again. Have a good night. Y para todo el mundo que está velando, buenas noches y gracias, gracias, gracias. Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Good night.